Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and today we have a preview of The Adventurers. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of The Adventurers. Now this is a pre-order campaign that you're going to be able to find on GameFound. The link is down below, and this is a sponsored preview by Simon. But that being said, this is a brand new adventure. So the one that I'm going to be showing you is a prototype copy. All rules, components, and things like that are subject to change, but the Tomb of the Pirate Queen is going to be a brand new adventure. Now this is an existing game that got revamped. Again, check out the campaign link down below for pre-order exclusives, things like that, but this game was changed a bit, updated, but absolutely beautified that you can see really how nice it looks down on the table. But that being said, the other two games you are able to check out, that these are all standalone adventures, and today we are going to be going over the rules of the Tomb of the Pirate Queen, but you can know that like a lot of these rules are going to be very similar, where different things are going to happen, where you're going to have these different adventures that you are sending through these different areas trying to loot as much as possible. Now there are general decks where you are trying to loot from, but there are also some special places where you're able to hopefully get some additional victory points. So that being said, we are looking at this particular standalone adventure. Now as I said, here you have the Tomb of the Pirate Queen. The other two that are available are going to be the Temple of Chac and the Pyramid of Horus. So those are all going to behave differently with the different things that you are doing, but you are going to have your different adventurers that are going to be compatible with each of the standalone series. And again, as I said, there are going to be some pre-order things that you are able to get on the GameFound link down below. Now, as I said, in the game, you are trying to accumulate as many victory points as possible, and that's going to be with the different things that you are collecting from these different areas as an adventurer. But to be able to do so, you're going to be rolling dice. So you're going to have dice that you roll at the beginning of each of your turns, and you're going to use those to allocate which actions you choose to do. But the trick there is going to be that you have encumbrance. So at the beginning of the game, you're rolling 4 dice because you start off with nothing besides an item that you were able to use, but you have no cards in your hand. But that being said, as you start accumulating these different trophies and things that are worth victory points, they're going to start encumbering you, meaning that you are rolling less dice. So if you have up to, I believe, 9 cards, you're only rolling 1 die per turn, meaning that you are only really moving if you're trying to move and get out of the temple. But that being said, depending on the number of cards that you have in your hand, you're going to roll a different amount of dice. And all of that is going to be over here for you on your player board, where you can see your encumbrance. So 0 to 3 cards is going to be 4 dice, 4 to 6 is 3, 7 to 8 is 2, and 9 plus cards are 1 die. Now you also have this area where you are able to store different treasures, and those treasures also do not count towards your encumbrance. So you are going to store some of your better treasures, because once something is stored, it cannot be stolen. We're going to go through the different actions, but one of them is stealing. So once you do store something, it's not able to be taken from you. So once you find something that's worth a lot of points, that may be a reason for you to want to store it. And you can see some characters, such as our Big Bram over here, is able to store up to 3. So certain things like that, or items you might find, may allow you to store additional cards. But that being said, some treasures that are worth lower value will have an additional aspects that they provide when it's stored. So we'll go over that in just a bit to not get too confusing. But there may be reasons for you to store things that are not higher value, meaning that your higher value items may be a little bit vulnerable during your turns. So at the beginning of the game, with the board setup, there's going to be a few things that players don't know. There are going to be these passages here that players are going to try to move through and see whether they're actual passageways or not. And there are also these different relics that players are going to be able to gain, which some of them are guaranteed to be worth victory points, such as these 4 special ones here, which for this particular scenario, players are going to need to lockpick to be able to gain those. But the other ones could be good or bad. So they could be victory points, they could be a lot of victory points or very little, or they could be something that is a cursed statue and something bad that would happen. Now that being said, players are also going to be able to search in their different areas, drawing from the respective decks, and those again could be good things, bad things, a whole plethora, and we'll go over those soon. So for players to start their turn again with a 0 encumbrance, you're going to be rolling 4 dice. So we will roll 4 dice as an example, and we rolled pretty low. So you see we have a 1, 2, 2, and 3, and we were going to go through the different adventure actions just to give you an idea of the game. So first and foremost, you're going to be able to move, which is the most important. And with a 1 through 3, you can move 1 space, but with a 4 through 6, you can move 2 spaces. So our player would only be able to move 1 space at a time per die that they allocate toward moving, but that's something that they would be able to do, which at the beginning of the game is something you would definitely want to do. So we could allocate our 2 2s for this character to move forward 2 spaces. Now, something for players to know is that the floodwater is going to come in within these numbered spaces. So this is currently a number 3 spot. So starting here, you might go forward to the 7 spot just to be a bit safer so that floodwater won't quite hit you yet. Floodwater is going to do damage to you, knock you down on your feet, but it could also cause you to not escape, because if floodwater reaches the end, that would be the end trigger of the game. But we are getting far ahead of ourselves. Our other actions are going to be interact, which interact is going to be things such as trying to lockpick for this action or interacting with this area to see whether or not it's a passage that you're able to go through, and a 1 through 6 are able to do that. For gear, you need a 1 through 3 to interact with your gear. So this is really great for us to use gear. And our rabbit's foot, it will enable us to search too. So we could use that to be able to search. And in order to do so, we would allocate this to our rabbit's foot over here. And then since we are in this red area, we would then search too. Alright, and since we used our gear to do so as opposed to the search action, we are going to be able to search too. Normally the search action, a 1 through 3 would only be 1 search card, and a 4 through 6 is 2 search cards, but since we are using this as our gear item, we are still going to be able to reveal 2. So here we have a powder keg and a puzzle ball. So the puzzle ball is a treasure, and that's something that we are going to be able to hold on to in our hand. And when you reveal treasures, you are only able to keep 1 treasure that you reveal. So if these were both treasures, we would have to choose between the 2 of them. But our other item was a powder keg, which is going to allow us to search too, and it also has a passive ability. Discard this card to draw 3 tokens from the lockpick bag, suffer any wounds drawn, then successfully pick an adjacent lock. So this is something that will help you with lockpicking in the future, and gear items are automatically placed in front of you. They do not count as cards in your hand. They're cards that are basically always able to be used, meaning that currently this player only has this puzzle ball in their hand. Now, going through the other actions that you are able to do, one of them is stand, which, as I noted, floodwaters will cause you to fall, so that's something that you will need to be able to do. Now, normally this would cost a 1 to 6 die, as you can see here on this player sheet. However, this character has a special ability where they're able to stand their fallen figure up on its current space immediately after you fall, if on your turn, move 1 and heal 1. So they're able to move out of the way when these different things happen, but that is special to this hero alone. But that is special to this adventurer alone. Now, another thing that they're able to do is steal. Steal on a 4 to 6, you can take 1 random card from another player's hand in the same space. So where this character only has this 1 puzzle ball in their hand, someone could come up and try to steal it. But finally, for a 1 to 6, you have store. So you are able to store a treasure in its empty storage space, or swap a treasure from hand with 1 from the storage space. So we would be able to use this final die to store and place this into our stored treasures, meaning that no one is able to steal this, meaning that a 4-point puzzle ball is actually pretty good. They will go from points 1 to 5, so that's pretty strong. Now, finally, you do have an ability for a 1 to 6 that you can discard any number of cards in your hand. That's going to help with your encumbrance, and toward the end of the game, that may become very, very important, because that will determine how many dice you are rolling, and that will mean how many moves you are able to make to be able to get it to the end. Now, those actions may seem like a lot, but it's very, very intuitive. You're going to be limited to what you're rolling with your dice, so that's really going to help you choose exactly which actions you're able to do that turn. And that being said, everyone is just trying to get toward the exit. You are trying to gain as many victory points as possible, and there's a lot of stealing going on, so you want to be sure that you're storing what you need to and working up toward those lock-picking actions for the really special goodies. But that being said, everyone is trying to race toward the end in the safest but most advantageous way possible while trying to steal along the way. All right, and now here we are at the end of the round, and I've had everyone move forward just a little bit, and you can see that there's been some gear and treasure picked up along the way. But once this happens, players are going to be drawing these flood cards. So there is going to be a mechanic where they will be shuffled later, but at the beginning you're only going to have your starting floods and then subsequent floods. So with a starting flood card, we're going to resolve this, where it's going to have rubble plus 0. This is when the rubble marker would move and potentially knock over this statue here, but that's not going to move forward on us yet. But we do have water plus 4, meaning that we're going to be placing 4 of these down, going 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and that's how water is going to start entering the map area. So you can see that if water hit anyone, they would have taken a damage, moving a damage marker over onto their spot. And they have 3, 3, and 4 health respectively. But the other thing is that this rubble marker is going to make it more and more dangerous for these pillars to be collapsing. So once this moves forward and triggers on this spot, you would then roll a die for this to fall. So where it's on a 4, it would fall and thankfully not hit anyone, but if we had rolled a 3, it would have hit this character here. They would have taken a damage and fallen down. Now again, if it had been this special character here, because this is their ability, they would have been able to stand up and then move if it was on their turn. So that kind of gives you an idea of how these special abilities will come into effect when different things are happening. But that being said, if this were to fall here over on the 4, when they do fall, they also trigger the token that is underneath them. So you can see that this is a 2, meaning that this 2 would be added to the water that is flooded during this turn. So we would also place a 5 and a 6, and again, this rubble marker did not happen, but in the case where it had triggered this turn, it would have happened to the 5 and the 6, and that would have caused this character to also be knocked over from the water. Now, the most interesting part of the adventures is going to be how you are acquiring this treasure, because there are going to be so many ways that you're able to do it, and some of them are cutthroat. So you're going to be wanting to pay attention to exactly what everyone gets and what they're drawing into their hands. And you're going to want to store anything that you want to be keeping for yourself, because that can be very, very important. So the different ways that you're getting this treasure, again, is going to be searching through these different decks, which good and bad things can happen, which I'll show you in a moment. But after that, you do have these special cards that are set out throughout the game, which you are going to be lock-picking for. Lock-picking I'm also going to walk you through, but those are going to gain you 5 victory points each, and another way for you to get victory points is stealing those things from other players. So you are going to be able to steal these different things, take them from other players, and be able to run off with it into the sunset and hopefully escape. So to give you an example of more of what you can expect from these different decks that you're drawing from when you're searching, here we're going to go through some of the cards for this room here. So we can flip over to see Exploding Trap, suffer 1 damage, then move to an adjacent space with the lowest number and discard this card. So this is one where this player would suffer a damage and then be bumped to a lower space. Now that could push them all the way out of the room, so that could be extremely important. But other examples would include something like this treasure chest. So this is something that you would be able to keep for 3 victory points, or you could immediately discard it to search 3 and keep all revealed treasure cards. Now, this can be really good because you're gaining treasure cards that have victory points, but it can also be very bad because it will count toward your encumbrance, and you can only carry so much. You can automatically subtract 2 from the ones that you store once you're able to store them, but then other than that, you're only able to carry so many cards. But let's say this player wanted to do it and decided to discard the card. They would then be able to draw 3 and keep any of the revealed treasure cards. So here we have the 2 masks and the treasure chest, and they would be able to keep the treasure cards respectively. Now, in the Tomb of the Pirate Queen, there are the 4 different alcoves that are tributes to the different Dragon Kings. So you are able to also lockpick those, as I mentioned, and to be able to do so, you would have to move so that you are adjacent to the area that you are lockpicking. Then you would have to use an interact action to be able to interact with this area, and you're going to choose to lockpick from this bag. So you're going to draw tokens from this bag, hopefully being able to lockpick. So in the example here, if we were to have moved and then to have interacted, we would have 2 dice left over. So just to make that important for you to see, here with our first lock, we drew an X. So with the X, we are only able to continue lock picking if we're able to allocate a dice toward it. So we're going to take one of our dice, use that on the X, and then try to keep going and continue with our lock picking. Now this one is a damage, but you are able to keep going, so we would take a damage but be able to continue lock picking as well, making this more and more dangerous. Now this one again is another damage, so we were able to take one more, but we were able to continue going with that, and here we have a success. So that is one success, and these particular alcoves need 4. Now there are some doubles in here. Here we have another one. There are some doubles in here, but we currently have 2 successes toward what we need. Here we have our third success. And this character did start off with the Rabbit's Foot, which is, you may discard this card to count as a success when lockpicking. So I think we may count our blessings here, discard this, count this as a success, and then they would be able to draw this card. Now that's not actually the character that I moved toward there, just for full clarity. But for the sake of the example, we would be able to draw this white dragon idol. Now, again, it's very, very important to be able to store these as well on the same turn that you gained them. So us having this final dice left over to be able to store it is actually very, very important so that no one can come over and try to steal it from us. In the adventures, this is really going to be a game where you are racing against your own greed. There are ways for you to stop other players to try to block off and pick up certain things before you think they're going to, or to try to steal things because you saw them pick up something very high pointed. But that being said, you're limited to how many things you can carry and try to get out of this area. The water is going to be working up toward you, so you're only really able to do so much, so don't let your greed get too big is something that I would say. At the end of the game, players are going to score points for everything that they've accumulated on top of a set collection as well. So there will be set collection that will score you additional victory points. However, if you are stuck in here and the entire area floods, if it fills with water completely, the game will end and you will not score. Any players who made it out will score, but if you did not make it out of this top area here, you will not be able to score for the game because you drown in here with all of your things around you. Now, as I said, players are going to add all of the VP that they got from things they were able to carry out when they escaped. And for the set collection for the different areas that they're able to get, for example, this is a red dragon and a white dragon area, counting as 2 different types. For every 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you're going to gain 0, 1, 3, 6, and 10 victory points, respectively. So if you're able to get all 5 different color types, that's 10 victory points for you at the end of the game, which is absolutely huge. And then after that, players are going to subtract any injury tokens that they have incurred. When you get an injury, you're going to flip it over and it's going to have a different value on it. So depending on what you draw, you are going to have negative points at the end of the game. But then after that, you'll see who was the winner. Now again, in general, a lot of these rules are all going to be similar throughout the game because you are able to play with different adventurers. So the different actions that you're taking when you're rolling your dice and your encumbrance and things like that are all going to be the same, and you're always trying to get as much loot as you're able to get from these different areas. But some of the rules that I covered are going to be specific to the Tomb of the Pirate Queen and the things and the different hijinks that she gets into. So you can check out the link down below for everything that is planned, especially for the Temple of Chac and the Pyramid of Horus, because they are going to be different and they have very different things happening. However, this is a brand new adventure for this current pre-order. So as I said, you can check out the link down below for everything that Simon has planned. Thank you all for watching the Board Game Code channel. I've been Professor Meg, and I will see you all next time. Bye!